All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. I am so excited for this deep dive. I think it's going to be really fascinating.
Mhm.
We're talking about the role of young women in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Definitely an important topic.
It is, and one I don't think we talk about enough. You know,
Mm.
what are they actually doing in their faith communities?
Yeah, they're everywhere, but do we really recognize their contributions?
Exactly.
Mm.
So to get into all of that today, I asked you to look at Bonnie L. Oscarson's talk, Young Women in the Work.
Great talk.
It is, and she gave it back in April of 2018. She was the Young Women General President at the time.
So she knew what she was talking about, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And one of the things that really struck me from the talk was how she compares the responsibilities of young women to what Bishop Gerald Caussé outlined for Aaronic priesthood holders.
Young men.
Yeah, the young men. And to illustrate that point, she shares this amazing story from her own youth.
Oh, I love her personal stories.
Me too. They're always so relatable. So she talks about growing up in a small branch, and at 16, only 16, she got called to lead the music for sacrament meeting every single week.
Wow, that's a big responsibility for a teenager.
Right. Imagine the pressure.
You'd really have to step up.
No kidding. And it makes you think about, okay, if we're asking 16-year-olds to do things like that, lead music, what other amazing things are they capable of?
I think that's the point she's trying to make, that they have so much potential.
Totally. Okay, so let's get into the substance of the talk. Where does Oscarson see this scriptural basis for the commitment of young women to the church?
Well, she actually quotes the baptismal covenant,
Oh,
which a lot of people think is just about Sunday stuff, but it's way more than that. It says, to mourn with those that mourn, yea, and comfort those that stand in need of comfort, and to stand as witnesses of God at all times and in all things and in all places that they may be in, even until death.
At all times and in all places. Wow.
Right.
That's a pretty broad commitment.
It really is. It's about living the gospel every day, not just on Sundays. And she goes on to talk about how young women are already serving in their wards and branches. They hold positions like class presidencies, and they even participate in these youth councils.
Oh, yeah, the youth council.
Where they get to work alongside adult leaders to plan activities and address the needs of the youth in their wards.
That's so cool. It's not just adults telling them what to do. They have a voice.
Exactly.
It's funny thinking back to my own ward. I remember being so impressed by the young women who stepped up to lead. It really showed me that you can make a difference even at a young age.
Those early leadership experiences are invaluable.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk specifics. Oscarson points to some really concrete areas of service within the church. What stands out to you?
Well, she actually turns to Handbook 2 of the church,
Oh, interesting.
which outlines 5 main areas of what they call the work of salvation.
The work of salvation. What's
Right.
that exactly?
It's basically all the efforts to bring people closer to Christ. So things like member missionary work, helping new converts feel welcome and stay active, reaching out to less active members, temple and family history work, teaching the gospel. It's a lot.
It is. Wow. So, with all of these areas of service, where do you see the greatest potential for young women? Like, where do they really shine?
What's cool is that Oscarson doesn't really limit them.
Hmm.
He believes they have something to offer in all of these areas.
She really does.
Yeah.
There's that story she tells about those young women in Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Who were called as ward temple and family history consultants. They were using their tech skills to help others connect with their ancestors. I just love that their tech savviness, it wasn't seen as like a distraction, but as an actual asset to the church.
It's a perfect example of how their unique talents can really make a difference.
Totally. Speaking of fresh perspectives, I have to bring up the story of Emma and Maggie, two 14-year-old girls. Oscarson gave them copies of ward council agendas and asked them to brainstorm ways they could contribute work.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So what did they come up with?
Well, Emma focused on helping a new family move in and acclimate to the area. She
Sure.
thought about befriending their kids, showing them around their new school, stuff like that.
Practical help?
Totally. And then Maggie was drawn to serving the elderly members of the ward. She wanted to visit them, offer companionship, even help with chores around their houses.
Wow, that's really thoughtful.
It is. And get this, she also volunteered to teach people in the ward about social media.
Ah, I love that.
Right. Something that a lot of adults might struggle with.
Totally. And it just goes to show you, doesn't it, that sometimes the best solutions are the ones we overlook because we're so used to thinking a certain way.
Absolutely. Young people haven't developed those limitations yet.
It's like they see the world with fresh eyes.
Hmm.
And I think that's such a valuable asset, not just in the church, but in life in general.
I completely agree.
Now, we've talked a lot about how young women are already involved in the work of the church, but Oscarson goes a step further. She sees all of this service as preparation for their future roles, too.
Oh, definitely.
What kinds of roles is she talking about?
Well, she mentions future missionaries, gospel scholars, leaders in their families and communities, wives, mothers, mentors, friends. The list goes on.
Wow, that's quite a list.
It really is.
And they're getting experience in all of these areas right now.
Exactly. Think about it. They're already teaching lessons in their classes. They're serving in the temple during youth baptismal trips, attending temple and priesthood preparation meetings,
Oh yeah, those meetings.
which help young men and women prepare for future roles in the church, like serving missions and participating in temple ordinances. And what's important here is that they're not just passive observers in these settings.
Right.
They're actually engaged in the work. They're receiving blessings. They're contributing to the advancement of the gospel.
That's so powerful.
It really is. It's not just about preparing them for some distant future. It's about empowering them to make a difference right now.
It's like they're not just the church of tomorrow, they're the church of today.
Exactly.
And I think that's a message we often forget.
It's easy to get caught up in the future and forget about the present.
It is. Okay, so we're seeing how all of this service is shaping young women and preparing them for the future. But Oscarson doesn't stop there. She has a call to action for bishops and other church leaders.
Oh, yeah, she doesn't hold back.
She really doesn't. What's she asking of them?
Well, she urges them to move beyond just, providing entertainment for young women and think about how to involve them in more meaningful ways. She wants them to be seen as valuable assets to the ward.
I love that. Valuable assets.
It's a real shift in mindset.
It is. And she doesn't just talk to the leaders. She also addresses the young women directly, acknowledging the pressures and challenges they face with self-worth, anxiety, even depression.
Teenage years can be tough.
No kidding. But then she highlights this amazing power of service, like how shifting your focus outward, contributing your talents, it can actually boost your self-worth.
Yeah, it's like an antidote to all that self-doubt.
Totally. And she even urges them to literally raise their hands to volunteer and to put those hands to work.
It's a powerful image.
It is. Okay, before we move to the next part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this question. What are some ways you've seen young women make a positive impact? Not just within the church, but in your community, in your everyday life. Think about that as we continue our exploration.
I like that. It's a good question to ponder. And we're back, diving deeper into the world of young women in the church.
Part 2, ready to go.
Yeah.
In the first part, we talked about all the amazing things these young women are already doing, but now I'm kind of curious, how do we make sure that we're empowering them to lead and not just giving them busy work?
Oh, such a good point. And actually, Oscarson addresses that directly in the talk.
Oh, does she?
Remember when she talks about bishops? She reminds them that working with the young women is every bit as important as their work with the priests. She's really trying to shift that mindset.
Yeah, because if we want them to feel valued, if we want them to step into their potential, we can't just treat them like helpers, right?
Exactly. It's got to be more than just, oh, you can set up the chairs or whatever.
Yeah, it's about recognizing their talents, their insights, their unique perspectives, which, I think sometimes gets lost. Even with the best intentions, we tend to underestimate what young people are capable of.
It's true.
It's like we forget that they're not just the future of the church,
Yeah.
but they're very much part of the present.
Yeah, they're building Zion right now.
Exactly. And that's what I love about Oscarson's message. It's like, we don't have to wait for them to grow up. We can empower them to act now.
That's what she's saying. And, those actions, they can have a real impact. Remember those girls, Emma and Maggie, the ones who were reviewing the ward council agendas?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They identified those opportunities for service that the adults might have totally missed because they were looking at it with fresh eyes.
That's what's so cool about young people. They bring this fresh energy and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
They're willing to, question things and think outside the box.
They don't have those same limitations that we put on ourselves as adults sometimes.
Right. Okay, so let's get practical here. I mean, as listeners, how do we actually put these insights into action?
Well, I think it starts with something really simple, but often overlooked. Listening.
Listening, okay.
Truly listening to them without judgment, hear their concerns, their hopes, their dreams for the future.
So it's like acknowledging that their experiences and ideas are actually valuable. Like we're not just humoring them.
Exactly. And as we're listening, let's also be open to the idea of mentoring them.
Mentoring, I like that.
Sharing our own experiences, offering guidance when it's requested, helping them hone their talents.
So it's about creating a space where they feel safe to ask questions, to get advice, maybe even challenge our perspectives a little bit.
Yeah, and that takes trust,
On both sides, for sure.
But honestly, the rewards, they're huge. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be some big formal program,
Yeah.
Sometimes the most meaningful mentoring just happens organically.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like offering to help with a project or sharing a book that impacted you or just being a consistent, supportive presence in their lives.
Little things can go a long way.
Absolutely. And then the other thing I think we need to be intentional about is creating opportunities for them to serve in ways that actually feel meaningful.
Yeah, let's go beyond the typical youth activity.
Exactly. Think about how they can contribute to the real work of the ward,
What are some examples of that? That kind of meaningful service.
Well, it could be anything from like helping to organize a service project or assisting with family history research or, teaching a class, visiting those who are homebound, or even just being given the responsibility to like plan and lead a certain aspect of an event.
The key is to give them something that challenges them, something that helps them grow, where they can see the results of their efforts.
Yeah. And, this might sound obvious, but positive reinforcement, that goes a long way too.
Oh, yeah, like actually acknowledging when they do something good.
Exactly. We're so quick to correct mistakes, but let's make a real effort to recognize their accomplishments, even the small ones.
I think that's something we could all work on, probably.
Yeah, a simple thank you or, just a word of encouragement can go such a long way in boosting their confidence and motivating them to keep serving.
Yeah. Be their cheerleaders, their advocates, their champions.
Exactly. Show them that we believe in them.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, ultimately, when we invest in young women, we're not just investing in individuals, right? We're investing in the future of the church.
We're helping to shape the next generation.
A generation of strong, faithful women who will lead and serve and make a lasting impact on the world.
And that's an investment worth making.
Absolutely. Okay, before we go to the final part of our deep dive, I want to ask you, dear listener, to take a moment to reflect on this. What are some ways that you've seen adults effectively empower young people? Like, what made those efforts so successful?
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the world of young women in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Wow, time flies when you're having fun.
It really does. And we've covered so much ground already.
We have, from scriptural foundation to practical service.
Up all those incredible stories of young women making a difference.
And challenging ourselves, too, as listeners.
Yeah, to really think about how we're empowering them.
How we can be better mentors.
Exactly. So I guess in this last part, let's kind of zero in on that action piece.
The how-to.
Yeah. What are some, really tangible everyday things we can do to make a difference in these young women's lives?
Well, we talked about listening and mentoring. Those are so important.
They are, yeah.
But I think it goes even deeper. Like creating a culture of trust and respect.
Where they feel safe
Yeah.
to express themselves.
To ask questions.
Even to disagree.
Oh, that's such a good point.
It's so easy to think we have all the answers.
To fall into that trap, for sure.
But sometimes the best thing we can do is just listen.
Yeah.
To create that safe space for them to process their thoughts and feelings.
Without judgment, too.
Absolutely. And let's not forget to celebrate their individuality.
Oh, yeah. That's so key.
Oscarson never says there's one right way to be a young woman in the church.
He doesn't.
She embraces all their different talents and interests and personalities.
Right, like cookie cutter. That's not what we're going for.
Not at all. Every young woman is unique.
Yeah.
And that's what makes their contributions so valuable.
I love that. So I guess encouraging them to explore those unique gifts.
To try new things.
To step out of their comfort zones.
To know it's okay to make mistakes.
And learn from them.
Exactly. That's how we empower them.
By equipping them to face those challenges.
With confidence, with resilience.
Not by trying to, shield them from everything.
Definitely not. And, something else to think about, those messages we're sending,
Oh, yeah.
Not just the things we say, but, the unspoken messages.
Underlying stuff.
Are we focusing only on, say, appearance?
Or their future husband.
Or, their future as wives and mothers.
Right.
Or are we also talking about, their intellectual curiosity?
Right, leadership skills.
Their capacity to make a difference right now.
It's about more than just those traditional roles.
Absolutely.
As important as those roles are, there's more to the story.
There's so much more. And all of this, it's not just about what we say or do.
What else is there?
It's about who we are. It's about modeling those values.
Like, are we living lives of purpose and service ourselves?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are we demonstrating the principles we're teaching?
That's a good gut check.
It is. Because at the end of the day, the best way to inspire these young women is to live in a way that inspires them.
Oh, that's so true. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to bring us back to Oscarson's message one more time.
Okay.
She's saying, loud and clear, young women aren't just the future of the church.
Right.
They're the present.
Their voices matter.
Their contributions are vital.
And they have so much energy and enthusiasm.
That can revitalize not just the church,
but the whole world.
It's pretty powerful stuff. So as we say goodbye for now, dear listener,
to all our amazing listeners,
we hope you've learned something new today.
Something to think about.
Something that will inspire you to make a difference.
To empower those young women in your life.
To create space for them to lead and learn and shine.
And to be open to learning from them too.
Because let's be real, they have a lot to teach us.
They do. Their faith, their energy, it's contagious.
It can inspire us all to live better, more authentic lives as disciples of Christ.
Well said. Thanks for joining us today.
Until next time, keep seeking knowledge, keep serving others, and keep striving to become the best versions of yourselves.